Welcome everybody. Good day. I'm happy to give you a presentation on compression solutions for hydrogen transport and storage in Europe. My name is Veronika Schelling. I'm the hydrogen mobility and energy leader at Burckhardt Compression. What you see here is a very general hydrogen value chain from production, conversion, transport and storage to end use. So what I want to speak about today is the central part, which is transport and storage. Why is it so important? Already today we see a majority of the hydrogen being produced in one location, different from the location from actual end use, from the consumption of the hydrogen. Even more in future, with all the renewable hydrogen that we expect to come towards 2030, 2050, the transportation will be key for the overall hydrogen value chain. Also, storage will become more relevant because renewable energy will be the basis for a lot of hydrogen produced globally. So how do you transport hydrogen? Of course, you can use the gaseous state to transport hydrogen. You can compress it to a pipeline or even use higher pressures and compress it to tubes, to trailers, also ships. Or you can change the state of the hydrogen to liquid or convert it to ammonia, to methanol for means of transportation also. We heard before about ammonia cracking, so it's really one way to transport hydrogen, to transport green energy from one location to another location. The good news for us as compressor supplier is whatever path you choose, there is a compression step included. So whether you just compress it in gaseous state or also for all these conversion processes, there is a compression step needed. And we provide reciprocating compressors. Wherever you see such a blue mark, this is where we play a role in the ecosystem. I would like to show you two concrete examples where we have experience in hydrogen compression, specifically also for transport and storage. One is the hydrogen pipeline injection compressor, which you see here. This is a 6BA compressor, so this means there are 6 cylinders, and we compress hydrogen from 20 to 100 bars to inject it into a pipeline. And this pipeline runs from Botlek area, just nearby here, to a distribution center in Antwerp, to industrial end users in north of France. And there are 3 such compressor units in parallel, each provide 6 tons per hour of pure hydrogen in a pipeline. So this is also a nice example to show. Maybe the audience in this exhibition is well aware about the state of hydrogen technology, but the broad audience still is not aware about all these international pipelines that are today already in operation over decades with pure hydrogen as well. Another way to transport and store hydrogen is to liquefy it. We see a lot of such developments, especially in the United States, in North America. And this is one example where we provided a liquefaction compressor. So in the liquefaction system, there is a compression step needed, in this case up to 60 bars. And this is for 30 tons per day of liquid hydrogen production. Now, if we look at Europe, we see less liquid hydrogen, but there is, of course, a big initiative to extend our gas pipeline system and make it fit for hydrogen. So the European hydrogen backbone we see as a very relevant project for Europe to make use of hydrogen in the most economic way. There are a lot of potential repurposing potential of existing pipelines today, which were used for natural gas in the past. There are gaps to be closed, some new pipelines to be built. But also, if we look besides this large pipeline system, even the local distribution networks, for example, in the UK or also in Switzerland, most of these smaller pipe systems, more than half of them are already ready for hydrogen. So that's a very good news that this is not restricting eventually also the use for hydrogen and further distribution. Still today, we see a lot of gaps in these pipeline systems. So what we see on the road is a lot of tube trailers. There are still more to come. Some are, let's say, intermediate solution until we have other means to transport the hydrogen, and some will be used also in future. What I'm showing here is a tube trailer from the company Calvera in Spain, just to give an idea how much hydrogen can be transported in gaseous state if it's compressed. This is 1.3 tons of hydrogen at 517 bars, and this is already a good range considering that this truck transportation cost is also considerable. I will come to that later. I mentioned it before, storage is very important considering these vast amounts of hydrogen that will be produced with renewable energy. There is a time gap which has to overcome between production and consumption of hydrogen. But also, if we think about the European targets of hydrogen, one is the production in Europe, but also a lot of hydrogen will be imported to Europe. So one project which is a very nice example of storage at scale is this project in the Netherlands by Gasunie, the high stock, where hydrogen is planned to be stored in salt caverns underground. So you can always store hydrogen in tubes, in bottles, overground also, but to use already existing underground storage facilities is a great potential that we should make use of wherever possible. And just to give an idea about the magnitude of storage potential here, the hydrogen is stored at 200 bars, and one of these salt caverns can store 240 gigawatt hours of energy. What is then also important, and it's shown in a very small icon at bottom right, is that these storage salt caverns are connected then also to the pipeline network. Because of course also the Netherlands hydrogen backbone, the European hydrogen backbone as such, they're also kind of storage capacity to balance the production and demand of hydrogen. So what we are looking at compressor supplier, I'm sure other OEMs will feel with the same like we do. There are a lot of projects which are being announced, which are being developed in early feasibility stage. And we have to find a way to identify these projects that have the highest potential to also materialize. Which ones have the best business case, the best technology, also to make it to the realization phase. So one thing which we are monitoring, for example, is the total cost of hydrogen also, the different value chains and the costs allocated with it. So we did one analysis on a specific use case. Let's say we have a hydropower plant in north of Norway with quite attractive electricity prices. There is an electrolyzer, and then we need to transport the hydrogen to Central Europe, to Germany, to a fuel stations. So let's assume there is a pipeline available which we can inject the hydrogen to and compare it to a trailer filling concept where we have to fill tube trailers, can be then on road or on a ship that these tubes are being transported. Eventually it will go to a fuel station where it's compressed to a car. So if we look at the costs that are associated with the production, with the transport and to the end use, the transportation as such is one of the key cost drivers if we look at these different transportation schemes. So the pipeline transport results in 3 times lower cost actually compared to such a scenario of a small tube trailer. What we also have to say, you see it in the middle column, the transportation cost can be up to 70% of the total cost of hydrogen. So this is very relevant for the overall business case and to make it also economic. What we also had to take some assumption is the cycle times of these tube trailers. How is the utilization, how long it takes to deliver hydrogen, drive back, to recharge. So this is also crucial eventually on how the costs are being calculated. So we are convinced that to invest in this pipeline infrastructure, this is really essential to make green hydrogen in Europe also in an economic scenario and to make it competitive overall. Now, if you want to know more about these little icons, these horizontal compressors for pipeline injection, the vertical ones for trailer filling or also for fuel station compressions, I'm very happy to welcome you later at our booth. We're at the C50, just around the corner. I will be here today and tomorrow. and we're happy also to receive you there and answer your questions. Thank you very much. There is still some time for any question if you may have some.